I think we're live. Isn't that great? Isn't it great to be alive, Mary?
Yes, it is. It's a wonderful thing.
Where else would we be if we weren't alive? What do you think?
I don't know. I know I'd be flying around and having a wonderful time too.
Yeah. And I think I've got some ideas, and lots of people are talking about their near-death experiences and all of that.
Yeah.
Welcome, folks, to our full moon gathering, and meet Mary, who's my co-host today. I'm Michael Davyd from Beyond Being Human. I'm really looking forward to today's session. Mary, would you like to talk about any special experiences that you've had from the heart? Because I know you've been working in that field somewhat.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. And I wanted to thank you personally for reminding me what of the work that I've been doing. And I've always been looking for something more to offer. I own Gorgeous Glow Facial Spa and Head Spa. We're here in Boynton Beach, Florida. And I've always wanted to have something more than just the spa. And you approached me and we started talking more heart aligned conversations. And we started talking and sharing more heartfelt topics. I realized that when you mentioned heart centered, all things just started opening up at the spa. At Gorgeous Glow, I believe that real beauty and well-being always starts with that interconnection. In fact, we kind of reimagined what the word spa even means. We changed it from the conventional definition of spa to supporting purposeful awareness sanctuary. So we did that because this is a heart-centered philosophy that guides everything I do. I ensure that every treatment not only refreshes the skin, but also nourishes the soul. That is where the work is really done. And so when we talk about living from the heart, we're actually exploring how to tap into that inner wisdom that guides us past fear, doubt, and past the need for outside validation. So today on Beyond Being Human, I think we're going to be examining a lot of things that come from people's hearts and comes from that frequency. And it's very exciting tonight.
People don't know, but 10 years ago, well, a lot of people do know now, so I can't stop talking about it. But I had an angelic encounter whilst in a workshop at Robert Kirby's workshop centre in Sydney, and that changed my life, and it gave rise to Beyond Being Human. And Robert at the time was running a business doing mentoring and life coaching, and he called it heart-centered living. And that always resonated with me, and I really like that. And hopefully he's going to be coming in fairly soon, and he'll be talking about all of that. And while we're waiting for a few other people to arrive, you've had various experiences with fairies and angels, haven't you? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Actually, let me play this little clip. So someone who I'm going to play a few videos from, I
Oh,
only
good,
met
good.
her yesterday, and her name's Elaine Silver, and she runs a musical ministry. A lovely
Oh.
person. Yeah. She and I got talking, and this is just a little bit of an introduction to her.
Well, the fairies came into my life sometime around 1992 or 93, right around the time that I found the Science of Mind, New Thought philosophy. And when people ask me, what are you talking about? What do you mean fairies? And I'll say typically, well, you've heard of angels, right? Well, angels and fairies are similar, except that the angels are from the heavenly realm and the fairies are from the earth. And the fairies are here to teach us how to take care of our home. And we're all earth helpers. We can become planet earth helpers. And just become more aware of our environment. And just as an aside, a couple weeks ago, I had solar panels installed on my house, and I was a solar activist. And that's being a fairy. That's being a planet Earth helper. And when the fairies came into my life, it actually came at a dark time in my life, and it brought me creativity. It brought me joy. It brought me lots of kids that loved it, and it brought me prosperity. It brought me ideas. It just brought me so much joy and possibility. And I tell people, if you can believe in the possibility of fairies, then you can believe in anything. Anything is possible. Anything is possible with source, with spirit, with God. So why not fairies, and why not angels? And there are many, many, many people that have had encounters with fairies and angels. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Isn't she great?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
please tell us about your experiences.
So let's talk about the angelic experiences. When I first started energy healing, it was just energy healing for me. My mother used to do healings, but it was through the archangels, invoking the Holy Spirit. We used to have lines going outside the house and around the house, people waiting to come and get healed. Then I started, every kid goes through that reluctant psychic syndrome that we all get. Once I went through that, and I opened up my heart to what it is that I was and what I was supposed to do here, found my purpose, I realized that going through angels, going through that invocation and allowing that energy to enter, I was able to kind of give a little stronger type of angelic healing. And then it wasn't until I started really feeling, when I started feeling angelic presence, that's where everything changed. That's where I was able to anchor, okay, this is what this is. Once that started happening, then there was a plethora of other, like she said, possibilities and endless possibilities. And it just became one thing after another. Yes, fairies. Yes, yes. Just like we have stewards that help with the heavenly and the celestial realm, we have fairies and other helpers here on this earth. Because where are we going to live? We need to adhere and listen and do what it is that they're teaching us and understand it, right? So, fairies as well, they work with my crystals. I call them that they go into the crystal, they live in the crystals. It's really that that energy, that frequency is what they use in order to move about, to in the way that they present to me. That's the way they present themselves to me. So I use a lot of crystals. I use a lot of angelic healing. I use a lot of Arcturian healing when they're here, when they're all over the place. It's like, yeah, let's do this. And you feel it. And that's the thing. You feel it. It isn't that you so much see it or that you heard about it. No, you feel that. And it's a grounding feeling. And you know that it's coming from a good space. It's a good energy. But yeah, that many times. Absolutely.
And I got to say too that the whole beginning of Beyond Being Human started with heart activations. Uh,
Mm.
Quite a few years after having the encounter, I started watching various different videos, and I hadn't really tuned into the whole group of people who are now, building whole platforms. What happened was I'd be watching someone and I'd feel this kind of presence, or what I ended up calling a heart activation. And it's like, oh, I've got to talk to this person. And we got talking and whatever. And Like, I told them what happened and what I'm looking to do, and everyone sort of just got on board really quickly, and the most amazing people, including Mary Rodwell, who was one of the first, and Nadi Hana, who unfortunately passed away a little while ago. She was very instrumental in the early shaping of Beyond Being Human, and it was all very heart-centered, and she, did a little testimonial. I might play that at the end, where she actually stressed, like, "It's so heart-centered." So and I think that is an ideal that I would like to hold solid in all of that. Anything with fairies going further, because fairies are always this kind of thing where people would love to believe them, but find it hard to believe that they exist.
That has to do with all this conditioning that we've gone through thousands of years through right now, right? We're at that point. It's like we want to believe, but we are very skeptical. It's something that we really don't understand, and it's been tied up into that medieval era a lot on TV, and I feel that yeah, we know about fairies, but that also has that connotation where not all fairies are good, and I don't think that that is necessarily true. And you see it everywhere. Be careful, don't cross a fairy, or be careful what you ask for on with a fairy, and be careful. Listen, it all has to do with intention. My biggest thing is I have beautiful trees in the background. I've always loved nature. And where are you going to find fairies? In nature. You're going to have them where you have this beautiful natural landscape that actually the creator did for us. That's our TV. That should be what we should be watching every day, right? And yet, if you listen to the encounters, it's when you're calm, it's when you're mostly meditating, when you are in nature that they come. That is their environment. You are in their realm at that moment. And if your heart, since we're talking about everything about the heart, they know, they feel. When our hearts are filled with love, with compassion, with understanding, that we are able to accept anybody, anything in our realm and cherish and love it and understand that there's no harm needed to be done. That is where the actual fairies do feel the need and compassion to actually show up. Because that's why not a lot of people can see a fairy. They don't have that vision, they call it, because it comes from the heart. They know the feeling. They know they can show themselves too. And that talks a lot about us. That talks about where we should be radiating from. So if fairies only show themselves when our frequencies are in the right place, when we are in coherence with nature, our minds, our heart, and when we are at that point that they feel safe to show up and communicate with you, whether it's telepathically, whether it's with the wind, whatever it is, you are able to communicate back. Then that's when they show up. That's certainly how it happens to me. When I am most calm is under a tree. I have this huge mango tree in the back, and I climb the tree. It is low. It is a low tree. I climb on the tree. So, okay, I'm not going to fall. And if I did, it would be really funny to catch that on video. But when I'm there and everything is quiet and you hear the chimes, I have chimes everywhere, you feel the energy. You feel you're not alone. When that happens and I know when my heart is in that zone, that frequency, you're going to see them, you're going to hear them. And they appear in many different ways, many different forms, because they're able to do that. So if we can believe that there is a creator we do not see, how can we not believe that he would create something that will give us that possibility? There is just all kinds of possibilities. We just have to believe, and we have to understand that that is what is really happening. We have to be the stewards. We have to teach compassion. We have to be compassionate, but we have to teach it. More and more people with compassion and with an open heart that is going to open up these realms, and these beautiful entities and creatures are going to come. They're going to be able to manifest, and we'll be able to have that coherent conversation that we need to in order to advance to a much higher, a much more intelligent conversation with them. And it will happen.
Yeah. That's great. And I did want to actually spend some time, and I'm sure everyone who's coming on will have something to add about compassion, because it is very much about like living from the heart, and that's one of the key things with compassion. I'm would like to welcome Patricia, who's just entered the room, but also Anthony Kilner, the editor of Supernal Magazine. We'll pop you on next. But Patricia, do you want to have a quick hello?
Yes, it's so nice to meet both of you. I also see as a participant, my dear friend Michelle Rupert is here as well. So Michelle, I don't know if you're ready to turn your camera on or not, but there she
I'm
is.
here. I have an appointment in the background, so I'm going to turn off my camera so it doesn't interrupt, but I'm listening.
Good to have you here. She lives in her heart, living in Heart Center Gratitude Administrator. So, yeah.
Can't wait to hear all about Divine Two-Step. Let's go to Anthony now, and he's just released a new issue of the magazine, for which I'm very grateful to be writing various articles and things, and does a great job.
And lovely to meet everybody and listening to you talk too, Mary. The elementals are something that I'm lucky to live on a few acres. We get a lot of animals walking around the place, and I'm just trying to work out how I can get a shot and share. It's a copyrighted shot, even though it hasn't got it on there, but I think it will blow people away when they see what an elemental deer looks like. The fairies and the elementals that I work with, yeah, it's very much in that space. Yeah, so the latest issue of Supernal came out a couple of weeks ago, which is quite interesting, and where sort of really that issue's all about sort of conspiracy fact, for want of a better way of saying it. And so we are looking at a whole range of different sort of things that have been termed conspiracy theories and that have turned out to be quite true. So that's actually been quite a good issue. It's fun researching it and looking at that sort of thing. We're knee deep or neck deep. Oh, look at that. Got it up there. In the next issue, which is issue 57 now. And we're looking at seeds of change. And seeds of change really is all about coming from the heart space. And so we're looking at different stories from people about understanding what was their catalyst in changing their life. And a lot of people on their spiritual path would have gone through some major changes. We all sort of seem to have to do that to have a lived experience in our own spiritual direction. And whether that be, religious, near death, just spiritualism, which is what I sort of follow, but going down any path where you're learning, that learning really changes you on a heart level, and that's what I'm all about in that space. And I do a lot of work with teaching in the higher heart as not a standard chakra in the way I see it, apart from the 7 majors. The higher heart is the space where it's like the battery, the power pack, the energy that creates the energy around a person different to the auric field. And so been working with that for a few years now, and when I teach meditation and I explain the connection to the earth, because you have to be connected into the earth, and then the connection to the universe. Well, we have this sort of positive up here, the earth symbol at the bottom, bring the two together, blend it into the higher heart, and suddenly you've just got all this beautiful energy around you, and people notice it. It's great for just people, instead of being fearful of needing shields and protections and all that sort of stuff, the stronger your higher heart energy becomes. It transmutes that need for protection into just love. And to coin the old phrase, love is all you need. That's what we're doing. So I teach that, I breathe it, I live it, and that's what it's all about. And so with Supernal, that's what we do in that space. So Seeds of Change is this issue coming out in about 3.5 weeks. Suddenly got all funny in the throat while I'm talking, which is obviously my spirit people want me to keep talking, but then they come in and say, yeah, say this. They love it, and I love working with my spirit team. Yeah, so that's where we're at. So Supernal comes out bi-monthly. There's a free component to Supernal, so you can look at the latest issue free, and for a small fee of just $18 at the moment, people can actually access all our back issues of what we do and how we do it. And thank you for sharing some of the screenshots of the covers, Michael. But we've got some amazing covers. Pretty much all our team are volunteers. We don't actually get paid to do what we do. It's coming from a heart space of love, the same as what I do. All the work I put into it as the publisher editor is done free, and much to the annoyance of people that want me to pay rent and all that sort of stuff. But it's what we do. I couldn't imagine not doing it. Our contributors are all doing that. They're all sharing stories. They're all sharing experiences. We're about education, and Supernal actually means education from upon high. So it's tapping into a higher source to get information, and that's what we're about: sharing and caring and giving, and coming from that heart space that's important.
And your website is supernalmagazineaustralia.com.au, just for the audio record, and you can click on it here. But this is the page on Beyond Being Human, and we did an interview a while back. We probably should do another one soon.
Yeah. Well, that was that. Well, we're getting back into Supernal radio and Supernal TV, so we've done a lot of podcasts. Yeah, so we're just building up a lot more interviews at the moment. Each issue we try and do at least one interview with somebody. We've got, actually, this is really a big thing, Dr. Sam Osmanagic, who was the discoverer of the Bosnian Pyramid of God. And it is huge. And we interviewed him, and I think in the first 5 to 10 minutes of listening to him talk just blew my whole concept of the pyramids, where they come from, what we've been taught in school, and just absolutely gone crazy. And we're looking at actually running a Supernal readers trip to Bosnia next year, because the pyramid itself is built with a mortar of quartz crystal, and it amplifies energy. And if I've got it right, and I'm still learning about this, it's only one of 8 in the world that actually do that. And it's been dated older than most of the other pyramids. And so there are 8 originals, and then there are, as he refers to them, the copies. So yeah, that interviews and the story, and Dr. Sam's actually going to be writing for Supernal for the next 6 issues about pyramids and energy, and how this pyramid takes Earth energy and directs it into space. And so, yeah, it's really phenomenal. Excited to be learning about it, and more excited to be in a position where we're looking at taking a Supernal readers trip and meeting people over there and taking them through the healing tunnels. So they've got these tunnels that go around the place, and people go in there and they just sit in that energy and come out and go, hang on, something's changed. So yeah, really looking forward to exploring that. It's coming from a heart space. It's aligning you with the people that you need to meet. And that's where I see Supernal in my role in doing things.
You've done so many articles and things and included angels and fairies and all sorts of multidimensional beings. And I was just thinking about, let me share again.
Sorry,
We-
broke.
Yep, we could match some articles into the topics of what we are preparing in our library of mystical wisdom, knowledge, and multidimensional experience. Just to let people know that this is a growing resource that I'm working on with a couple of other people, and slowly but surely adding to. But we can talk about that later, adding some of the supernal
stuff into it. Absolutely. I mean, if we talk about, seeds of change and coming from heart space, when I started my spiritual journey 30 odd years ago, I did never think I'd be sitting down putting together a magazine where I got to learn so much about so many different topics. And so the old saying of the journeyman of be able to touch all trades, but not a master of any is really quite true in that there's so much and so many beautiful people out there doing stuff, whether it's ghost tours, whether it's shamanism, whether it's working with fairies, whether it's energy, whether it's healing and all that sort of stuff. There is just so much out there. And every issue I'm sitting there and I'm reading stuff and I'm going, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And this is amazing. And let me just research that a little bit more. And that's really what it boils down to. So for me, it's having this really broad base of knowledge and understanding that works well with my brain. And so, yeah, it's really a great experience. So sharing what you're doing, Michael, with Beyond Being Human and sharing that knowledge, it's an untapped resource at this point in time, the way I see it. I think that having it there is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's going to take a while to grow. But one of the things that I'm most excited about is the mystics section that Jennifer Jakovsky and I are doing podcasts about. Just to mention too, our Beyond Christmas event, which we've held for the last 3-4 years, is going to be celebrating modern mystics. This is just one of the topics on the whole page. You can go through and read about all of that, but eventually we're going to have different pages for all of those topics. And you can click that and then come to the mystics page, where we have started quite a bit of work. And there's an introductory article, and then various people here have different articles, and I've been linking the supernal articles to that as well. And I love both Steiner and Swedenborg. And just while we're here talking about it, mystics in particular seem to really embody the whole aspect of living from the heart, but also with embodying the divinity kind of thing. And Patricia, I'm sure you can talk all about that as well. Thanks, Anthony. It's great to have you here.
And I've sent that image to you of the elemental deers, and that was a photograph that I took, so I know it's not played with. And I photographed it on my property when it's there. Now, if you can zoom into the head a little bit, Michael, if you have a look at the face there, you can actually see the face of the deer is not a normal deer.
No, that's
We have
not it.
sambar deer around our property. I snuck up on that one and looked at the face, and as you can see, it looked towards me, and that is not a standard deer face.
No,
Yeah.
no. Yeah, that's how they morph. They morph.
That's it.
They morph. That's what you were allowed to see. That's what was in here.
Absolutely. And I do that a lot. There's always been these things with the elementals or fetishes that, as I refer to them, live in the crystals, the elementals that live out in the wild. And there's always been times where things will happen. Like at one point I was on a photo shoot and I was just talking to Spirit, as I do. The caravan was set up across a bed of water. And I just said, it'd be really nice if I got some money in today, because my bank balance is really, really, really low. And a fish came straight up out of the water, and I actually caught it on a photo, the fish coming out of the water. And then the owner of the caravan came over, the manufacturer, and said, "Oh, look, I want to buy all your images from you today too, by the way." And so there was my money
There
at
you
the same
go.
time, and the fish literally just coming straight up out of the water. And when he saw the shot, he got me to do a blow up for them so that they could have the caravan shot there with the fish coming straight out of the water. So, you just got to be open to it and on a heart level, and it's amazing what can happen and what can be seen and achieved.
Yeah, Mary, did you want to say?
No, I'm saying yes. These elementals, they foster universal compassion and connection. And when we are at that particular vulnerability, like you were, Anthony, you were so honest and that you were like, okay, I really need this. And they were there because that's what happens. They're everywhere. We just don't really know it or remember it because we're inside our minds all the time. We're not that open so that we can receive the information that's really out there for us to hear. When you look at these beautiful conduits of I call them conduits of nature's purity, these elementals, they interact with us and with nature itself, but they interact with us in a much larger living understanding, where if they can make that change, because that change was already coming, if they can make that change come a little faster, they do. They have that energy, they have that frequency. They care for the well-being of everything and everyone in our planet. And we need to understand that, because one of the biggest things that they encourage, I feel, is empathy and awe. And then what do they give us in return? Wonder, gratitude, awe. They do. And what a wonderful way of fostering emotional regulation and healing. We don't see it as that, because at that moment we're, okay, this is what I need. I need this and this is what's happening. But when you start thinking about it, then you realize, oh my God. And it heals. It's because we are part of the earth. We are part of them. That's the interconnectedness. We need to understand that. But that's a wonderful, wonderful picture and a wonderful explanation of how they were able to be present, because you were present.
You said it earlier, we're conditioned to not see or hear or feel or even understand that there are other dimensions just outside our senses that interact with us. My kids are lucky because I've always said to them, if there's something there, it's there. And my partner went out she was going to cut a tree down, and my son walked out and said, well, where's the lady that lives in the tree going to move to? And he explained to her that the lady was in the tree. So at that point, we didn't cut the tree down, and we just went up and said, we're going to give you a haircut. So now we talk to every tree plant that we work on in our property. We actually talk to and say, look, I'm trimming your hair here. We've got to trim this back because we're doing this. So we're acknowledging the elementals that live within that boundary. And even acknowledging that one step further, when we first bought our property here, we actually went to each corner of the boundary. So myself, my partner and our dog, I dug a hole. We put crystals in there. We put sage in there. We acknowledged the land. We acknowledged the people. And we actually walked to every corner of our property and did a ceremony at every corner. And so we get very well looked after in that space because we acknowledge and just said, we love you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes. Yes. It's just like when a lot of people forget they're farming, right? You're a farmer and you're going to farm. Did you ask for permission? Did you thank the herbs that you just farmed? I know you're going to put them in Publix or a store, but are we really practicing that? We need to. And we need to say thank you. And we need to feed Pachamama. We need to feed our earth. Oh my God, you made me so happy when you said that.
You're welcome. We live by it. I mean, we, for the first time this season or this year, bearing in mind we're in Australia, we had avocados growing for the first time. And so we've had the trees in the ground for like 7 years, and we're just starting to get the fruit. But when we walk out of our back door and we walk down to the garden section and we're picking the lettuce or the tomatoes or the avocados and all the other different foods that we grow here, even to the thanking the chooks for the eggs they give us and stuff like that. That's what we do because it gives them harmony. We love all our animals. We love the food that we get and we live by it. And we just have all the birds that we get here, the bees. We've just got our bees, another beehive back and set up and running. So, we go down and sit next to the bees and talk to them. So it's all part of life here on our little plot of land.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Thanks, Anthony. We have a new person who's entered the group. It's Robert Kirby. I was talking about him earlier. You will remember from the beginning of the show. But Patricia, would you mind if I pass on to Robert first?
Not at all. Please do.
Hi, everyone. I love what I heard so far. Let's do it. Right now, I'm traveling and I'm in a hotel up on the top floor overlooking Mission Bay in San Diego. It's just breathtaking. I wish you could see it. I know some of you already, and this is going to be an exciting event.
Please just let rip. The whole theme of From the Heart was inspired by your heart-centered living.
Yeah, that's been part of my branding for over 2 decades now. I loved having in Australia and also in Europe and the UK and America, of course, the 3-day workshop on heartfelt relationships. Day 1 is on your relationship with yourself. Day 2 is on romantic relationships, to find the love of your life or to upgrade the relationship that you're already in. And the 3rd day was your relationship with your heart and the cosmos. It was all free and countless thousands of people came. And what I loved about it is a lot of times people get tired and after the break or after lunch on Sunday, they would go home. But like 90% of the people stayed 3 days. So I knew that people needed it and loved it. And so it was a way to serve and give something for free.
What does it mean for you, heart-centered living? Explain the whole philosophy behind it and practical terms as well.
If you wanted a bottom line, the only thing standing in my way is me. The only thing standing in your way is you. And I don't mean it in a judgmental way. It's just my experience after working with so many people. And I found that a peaceful heart is the center of it. And people know about it intellectually, and they say, yeah, it's important. Oh, I have a good heart. Yeah. But they actually don't. It's instead of coherent, it's incoherent, and they're stressed, and they've overridden that. And so the power of the heart is that it connects with the cosmos externally and the earth, of course, and also your inner soul. So it's like something that we need to nurture every day of our life. When we do that, guess what happens? The energy of the heart communicates more to the brain and to the body than the others do back. And when the energy of the heart connects to the brain, the left and right hemispheres of the brain actually communicate better, and they come back to the heart. Then the heart goes into the body, and we have the auric field, which starts to explode. What's its fuel? The heart. So this is why all the things that some of you shared earlier about you want to pour your love into the earth, yourself, and into humanity, and out into the cosmos. And interesting, there's an expression, I don't know if you have that in Australia, but gut feel, and it's a very American farmer kind of. Well, scientists recently have found out that there's enzymes in the stomach that connect to the right brain intuition only if the heart is coherent. If the heart's in a state of coherence, the stomach starts connecting to the brain and bringing it into your consciousness. So that's all. I'm just going to share that, really. If people learn that, they've learned a lot. So, yeah, and we can talk about ways that, we could teach them some of the steps, but I think that's a lot to digest.
We've got a webinar series in planning. Also, you are doing support groups And that's a really great service. beyondbeinghuman.org/support-groups. And
Cool.
you scroll down. We've got quite a few people, and there's Rob. And you can click to register, and it jumps down to a calendar, and you can book, and away
Cool.
we go. And that's just a service that Beyond Being Human's offering by donation. And I, from my heart, was hearing all of these people's stories about different kinds of relationships to do with the multidimensional aspect interfering with their relationships, and people having divorces and breaking up, and but also not handling the various different experiences. And I'm sure, Mary, you can probably talk to that a bit as well.
You know, one of the things that I learned, one of my mentors was Dr. Valerie Hunt from UCLA. What an extraordinary woman. I met her. She was 80 years old. I was 40 years old. She gave me a gift. Why, to this day, I don't know. 6 hours of past life experiences. And it was like, oh my God, I could write a book on it. And she mentored me in some extraordinary things. She had this music where people would go into other dimensions. And I had 80 people in Perth have a complete meltdown to past lives. And I told Dr. Hunt about it, and she interviewed me on it and some of the people who attended. And she had that as, you know, as part of one of her CDs. So it was like, she's just an amazing woman. But I just want to share one extra thing, is that she told me once, the only thoughts that leave the aura of the person are those backed up by emotional energy. That's why it's so important to live from the heart. Because if your heart is open and you're filled with fire and passion of love of yourself and the Creator and humanity and the earth, if you're putting that out, you get that back. We're more powerful than we know. However, so many people today, for all the reasons you know, aren't living like that. They're stressed, they're overwhelmed, they have anxiety, maybe sleeping disorder or an eating disorder or some sort of addiction. And guess what? What's going in their energy field, what's going out into the cosmos is fear. So what are you going to manifest? It doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have. It doesn't matter how much you've studied this, that, or the other about the center of your heart and your consciousness. And so when she told me that, I said, wow, this isn't some off the planet woo-woo stuff. This is science. Just so you know, that UCLA alumni donated $20 million to Dr. Hunt to travel the world. So she went to Eastern India. She went to China and other Asian countries. And there's a number of South American, I'm sorry, I don't remember them, South American countries that have a lot of alternative medicine thing. She went and visited all of them, but then she learned how to measure it. Everything they taught her. And she came back to UCLA as a professor, and then she retired, and that's when I was introduced to her. And she said to me at 80, she goes, "Would you please listen to my 10-year vision?" And I'm thinking, what? She's 80 years old and she's got a 10-year vision? I'm laughing to myself, you know? I said, "Of course, Dr. Hunt, I'm happy to listen." She lived to 96, traveling the world and teaching what she loved about living from the heart. And to this day, there's not a day or a week that goes by that I don't thank her. What an amazing woman. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to share with everyone. So I send my heart and love to all of you. I hope to see you soon. And Michael and I, if you want to learn more about this, but I would love to have all of you as my guest, of course, if you have the time to learn more about Coherence 123 and how to get that energy that goes out of your field, that's in the light, from love, from passion, and the little things that you could do every day to keep that energy flowing and the breath because when we get stressed, we breathe shallowly and we don't realize it. And it disconnects us from the earth. Once we disconnect from the earth, our soul chakras and our base chakra and the two chakras on the inside of the knee, if you bounce your knees together, there's chakras in there. They all need energy that comes from the breath. But we we get so stressed and overwhelmed that, the energy stops right here. We're living from the head up. And so I love to teach people how to get that energy down all the way through the body into the earth. The heart takes control and you stop overthinking. So it's very exciting stuff that I'm happy to share with everyone. My blessings to all of you.
That's
Thanks, Rob.
wonderful. Ultimately, what your philosophy is when your heart finally achieves coherence, because that is, we're talking about everything that has to do with coming from the heart. You actually stop receiving those fragmented, chaotic signals, right?
Yes.
Then you start broadcasting more of a clear, powerful frequency. And that's where we're able to get to the frequencies of love, appreciation, and peace, right? So if that is what we're dealing with here, then that makes us capable of becoming an engine for positive change, not only in our own lives, but in the whole world.
Honestly, if you want to know my spiritual path,
Mhm.
when we get out of our own way, because we're the ones standing in the way, we're everything. We're one. And all of us are one. We're one with the Creator. We're one with the cosmos. We're one with the earth. We're one with all of humanity. And we can find a way to love them, even though some of them are in a very, very dark space, especially today. But we could find a way to love them anyway. Yeah. So I couldn't agree with, it's a nice way. What you said is a nice way to put it. Yeah.
Cool. I love that. I love what it is that you bring. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you, Robert. That's fantastic. Patricia, finally, we're come to part 2. We started this last month. Now we're continuing, and there's going to be more later, and it's so exciting. And we're going to call you Miss Divine Two-Step.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you so much for this invitation. Again, as I've shared with you, there's been 3 divine downloads, messages from Spirit that were meant for all of us. I happen to be the fortunate person that it came through, but they are definitely meant for all of us. And that divine two-step that I shared last month is a condensation of the 3 messages. Tonight, I'm going to share about those first 2 messages from Spirit. And then you'll see why the divine two-step is a compilation of those 2 and actually the third as well. So I want to start out by talking about a story and how it came about. In 1999, I attended a week-long sacred silence retreat at Unity Village. I was at the very lowest point in my life, having just experienced for the previous 4 months what people call a dark night of the soul, where every part of your life just turns upside down, and for seeming no reason except the only thing connecting any of them is that you're in the middle of it. You're the part. It's in your life. So I was at that very lowest point when I attended that week-long retreat. I went with a few friends. Although I was with them when I arrived, I took every moment outside of the retreat program to be alone. On that very first day, I found a private place on the grounds where I could go there, walk there every morning before breakfast, sit on the ground under a tree and meditate as the sun rose in the sky. I totally surrendered. I called on the Holy Spirit. I called on Jesus. I just totally surrendered. And like I said, I spent as much time by myself as I could. There are many chapels on the grounds at Unity Village, and I spent time in each one of them outside of the retreat programming. Their Unity library and archives, I spent hours in there reading sacred texts and journaling. There was even 3 full days and nights of complete silence, which I absolutely loved. Well, about midweek in that week, there's started to be like little miracles that started to occur. And I can tell you that myself, I felt almost back to normal. And then by the end of the week, I felt nothing but gratitude and joy. Well, because I was self-employed, when I went home, I was able to arrange my schedule to continue those retreat practices of multiple meditations and reading from sacred books and so on several times a day. And that's what I did. And it was like several weeks after returning home that on what seemed like a very normal afternoon, all of a sudden this vision appeared. And it was just so real. I named it the Two Doors Vision, and this is what it is. There was an awareness that the purpose of every life experience, every thought, every relationship, every circumstance, every moment in our lives is for realizing our oneness with the divine. There were 2 doors that I saw floating freely above a scene whose beauty could only be described as heaven on earth. On one door were written the words, dark night of the soul. And on the other door was written the word gratitude. There was a knowing that I can consciously choose the door of gratitude to become aware of oneness, or life would choose the other door for me to create that same awareness. Through either door, consciously or unconsciously, life would lead me to oneness and ultimately to creating heaven on earth. Now, that was a powerful, powerful vision. And yet, back in 1999, I didn't have the awareness to really fully understand it. I console myself with knowing that back in 1999, nobody was talking about oneness or gratitude, much less creating heaven on earth. So because I didn't get it, Spirit sent another message, divine download, 2 years later. And it was at a time when I had shortly been married to my now husband, and that was in 2001. We were kind of still on our honeymoon period. Coming out of meditation one morning, I asked Spirit, how can I stay consciously connected with God outside of meditation time? And instantly, these flashes of light began to appear right before my very eyes. And I knew it was Spirit saying, here I am, I am everywhere, here I am. And with this knowing that I can recreate that by looking for light. So that's what I named it. It's a mindfulness game called Looking for Light. And so that very afternoon, I went around running errands in St. Petersburg, where Dave and I lived at that time. And I looked for light. I used light as an instant reminder that Spirit is present. And so every time I saw light, it was a spirit knowing. It filled my heart with gratitude and a joyful expectation for the next sighting of light to appear, which it did over and over again. When you're looking for light, you see it everywhere, off of car windows and chrome and buildings and signs and from the sun's rays and reflecting everywhere. When you're not looking for it, it's there, but it's faded in the background. You don't even notice it. So by the time I got home after playing this game all afternoon called Looking for Light, my whole energy field had been raised up to the frequencies of gratitude and joy. It was transformational. And I knew that this was repeatable. It was absolutely. And what it was also doing was embedding my subconscious with a realization of omnipresence. So, I mean, it was training myself to see with a single eye, to see the essence of the divine in everything and everyone in all of creation as I did it over and over again. And the transformations that occurred, some of them I captured on photos of things, whole situations, circumstances that just transform just by holding that high consciousness of knowing that spirit is in every situation and circumstance. And you know, some people, few people, have said, oh, that's a spiritual bypass, but it's really not. It's actual spiritual understanding of spiritual laws and metaphysical principles, of knowing that we can maintain that single eye vision and pull forth through the template of that divine perfection that we are holding in mind. We can bring out this essence of divine perfection here on earth. We become co-creators of heaven on earth. And so those were the first two of the what I call modern day revelations that Spirit has given all of us. And as you can see, the first one, the two doors vision, was about the heart and our feelings. The second one was about the mind and where we focus our attention. And so I've created that divine two-step, which is aligning our minds with the divine all the time while anchoring to the feeling of gratitude in our hearts all day, every day. And what that does is it builds a coherent state continually between our heart and our mind. Well, so I got that looking for light right away, and I played it in multiple circumstances, and I talked about it to people, and they had experiences, and so on and so forth. But it was actually 19 years later that I finally took a close look at the first one, the two doors vision, and realized that what it revealed was our purpose in life, a realization of oneness with the divine. And second, it revealed that we have choices in how we awaken, consciously through gratitude or unconsciously learning lessons through the challenges of life. And third, that no matter which path we choose, the ultimate destination is heaven on earth. And what a relief that is. So this divine two-step actually conditions us and retrains us into a coherent state of oneness, which is our purpose in life. So anyway, I have some slides to show the two doors vision. You know, fortunately, because I had been through that retreat for the week, I was in the habit of journaling. So I wrote down exactly what I had experienced, which is what I already spoke to you about. But if anybody has their cell phone handy and would like to take photos of these pictures, I think you might want to take a photo of a few of them at least. So there's a website called heartcenteredgratitude.org, which tells more of the story of how this came about and other supporting material there. This next one, at the very conclusion of that 7-day retreat in 1999, there had been a painting on the auditorium stage where the retreat programs were being held. At that time, the painting of Jesus did not have any glass covering on it. My husband took the smaller photo, which you can see right here. And what came through in these photos is what I call love light, a streaming of love light coming from above the painting, entering through the right hand of the painting of Jesus's hand. You will also notice there's a large white orb entering from the side of the painting. Notice I said it wasn't entering from the side of the photograph, which I think there's some scientific reason for this. I just don't know the science of it. A few seconds later, with my own camera, which, by the way, our cameras had film in them back then, that large white orb had entered through the back of the heart chakra of Jesus and came streaming out the front. There's even like what I call love bubbles, condensed love light here as it's just bubbled up here, bringing love light into form, bringing divine perfection into form. So this is that second revelation from Spirit, looking for light. It's a mindfulness game. And it came 2 years later. I spent 3 years researching 50 mystics, spiritual teachers, sages, philosophers to find validating quotes of this looking for light, keeping our minds searching only for light and good in God in every situation and circumstance, keeping that high watch, that higher consciousness as things transform right before your very eyes. They will. So you can look up the lookingforlight.net website and obtain a free download of the Looking for Light mindfulness game. There's also 50 plus quotes that you will love to have access to. I think they're very meaningful quotes. I didn't mention heart math yet. Well, after these two revelations came, I learned about heart math and registered for purchase 2 of their courses and all of their articles. In fact, this particular article, this scientific study they did in 2003 called The Appreciative Heart. It was written by the founder of Heart Math, Doc Shildray, and the director of research, Dr. Roland McCready. And it's very scientifically written, but I was able to decipher it and pull out from that scientific article that was peer-reviewed and verified. These are just the benefits that they have named in living in heart-centered gratitude, having an appreciative heart. And as you can see, they are quite extensive, affecting the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual bodies of each person who develops the practice of living in heart-centered gratitude. My favorite way of living in heart-centered gratitude, by the way, is anchoring to the feeling of gratitude in my heart all day, every day. Because I know I couldn't think grateful thoughts all day, but I knew I could anchor to the feeling in my heart for long periods of time. And if you do it repeatedly, you will learn how to live there really all day, every day, if that becomes your place of choice. This next one, this is a 7-day heart-centered gratitude experiment I've been doing for years now. It's simply one email every day. And the very next one I'm offering is Monday through Sunday, October 20th to the 26th. So in order to register, you just simply email me your name with experiment in the subject line. And that way I'll have your email to be able to send you these 7 emails. What they contain is an introduction to all 3 of the messages from Spirit, the modern day revelations that Spirit has meant for all of us, plus an explanation of the divine 2-step. So I'm asking for a love offering for this. Please do take a photo of this and register. You will not be disappointed. I have so many testimonials of how it has really been meaningful and has been life-changing for a lot of people because of knowing these spirit messages that were sent to assist us in awakening. And the last slide I have is of the heart mass, heart lock-in technique. And if there's time, Michael, I could just lead us in that heart lock-in technique if you'd like. If there's not time, then perhaps we'll do it another time. But let me know if there's time.
Yeah, go for it, please.
Okay. So if everybody will just please take a deep breath. And as you do, just bring your focus down into your heart. And begin to breathe ever so slowly in and out through your heart. Perhaps to the count of 5 on the inhale and to 5 on the exhale. Repeating that deep, slow breath as you get into a rhythm, staying in your heart. You may be feeling your whole body relax with each deep, long, slow breath. You may even begin to feel your heart not only relax, but open wider and wider. It's opening into love, that feeling of comfort, of safety. Continue those long, slow, deep breaths. And now activate a feeling of appreciation or love within your heart. The heart has memory. And the one thing that is common to every person on the planet is that their heart has memories of times when they felt thankfulness, appreciation, or gratitude. Just activate that feeling of gratitude as you continue to breathe slowly in and out through your heart. Are you feeling your whole energy field expanding? You probably are. Perhaps even feeling a tingling sensation as your vibration rises. The more and more of these long, slow, deep breaths and feelings of appreciation or love just continue to elevate your vibration and relax you, bringing you into states of love, joy, peace, unity, and ultimately oneness. All the while building a state of coherence between your heart and your mind, and over time, a state of resilience. And with a few more long, slow, deep breaths, we radiate this feeling of appreciation and love out to each other on this call, out to everyone that we know, everyone that we have yet to meet, to all of humanity, to all life on the planet, to Mother Gaia herself. Just feel the love, feel the gratefulness, feel the peace. And with one more long, slow, deep breath, we say thank you, thank you, thank you, as we bring this session to a close. So please open your eyes. And thank you, Michael, for this wonderful opportunity. You are doing such a service to humanity by offering us this platform to be able to share our gifts with the world. Thank you.
Well, my pleasure. And I was thinking through all of that, how grateful I am that so many amazing people have wanted to be involved in being human in general. But is doing the research in all of this, it's just incredible. What a wonderful world. Mary, maybe you've got something to add.
Yeah, while you were talking, Patricia, there was this overpowering amount of energy, and the I wrote down what I was listening at the same time. I guess my other part of the brain was listening and doing what it is that you were asking. The energy that I received, and I do have a galactic shaman guide that does show, and she does appear when it's necessary, when she has something to talk, and especially when she feels the energy is just right, right? You were talking about the coherence, you were talking about that heart and mind alignment, and the message that I received, and correct me in the parts that doesn't align. She was talking so fast. She was talking in her line language, but she was talking so fast, and I was trying to get all that while my other part of the brain was listening to you, because it was just so profound. First thing that came out of her mind was coherence expansion. And here's where she was talking about how the Earth's heartbeat serves as the anchor. Just as we all recognize that our personal coherence is profoundly assisted by the rhythm of the Earth. And then she goes, she is correct. I'm like, huh, okay. So then she goes, may your heart's coherence not only tune to the divine, but also synchronize with the Schumann resonance. That's that fundamental electromagnetic frequency of Mother Earth. She even gave me the hertz, but we all know what that is. When she talked about this earth frequency overlaps with our brain's restorative alpha and theta waves, and they act as a foundational stabilizing carrier for our bioelectromagnetic field. Yes, that's right. We all know that. She's like, we are so consciously and gratefully accepting the fusion you're all creating with your divine blueprint, with that heart, mind, and divine alignment, because you are ensuring your internal state is one of tranquil and resilient presence. And you touched on that word with resilience. She goes, you are all in that verge of becoming your perfect selves. She went ahead and said that they are inviting us, and they invite the assistance of for us not to forget to invite the assistance of our sacred messengers, angelic energies, and elementals. Earth's energetic messages flow through their roots, and the elemental wisdom of air, fire, earth, water. We all know that. She was every thought, every feeling, every action will be a radiant manifestation of the light that she is talking about. And she ends up saying, but you are light. You're just inside a body. But you are the light. So when I got that, I was like, oh, okay, I need to tell Patricia that, because this is exactly what she's talking about. And then I'm listening to the other side that is saying, yes, this is the fundamentals. This is the beginning. This is the gentle reminder of how it is, what you're able to do more. is actually realize that you are indeed the light, that oneness that you talk about, because the Creator is light. And that is how we bring heaven to earth, being
Yes.
light ourselves.
Yes.
She was so excited, and I had to share it because I was like, oh my God, yes. I hadn't heard from her in a while. And all of a sudden she's here. And I'm like, okay, she's got something to say. I had to share it.
Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you. I really think, just based on people's response to the few people that have heard about the Divine Two-Step, they get it. I mean, they get it. It's like a soul calling for them. They really align with it. Like Michael was one of them that just, like, the moment he heard it, it was like he got it. I mean, and people reach out from all over saying, oh yes, oh yes.
Yes.
Because it is putting that into that state of oneness. As we develop that practice, it's that coherency, it's that raised vibration, it's a raising of consciousness, it's a grounding us for the earth. It's all of that together, and grounding and connecting with one another. It's a synergistic cohesiveness. Yeah.
That's right. And here on earth, if you look at the heart's coherence and you look at the tools that we use as human beings, right? If you look at the heart's coherence, what is the closest tool we would use as a healing element? The tuning fork. It's frequency, right? So you get a tuning fork, and that aligns your inner rhythm to heaven's frequency. When your mind does what you talked about, that it surrenders to that alignment, we stop reflecting the light. We actually become that living bridge that anchors the divine radiance that you talked about, transforming every single cell, every single presence into the actual manifesting light. That's
We become
profound.
co-creators. Yeah.
We become the
We become
co-creator.
co-creators of heaven on earth.
Correct.
Yeah.
And with that creator's blueprint in right there on your lap, you've got the angelic energies because he created that. You've got the earth elementals because he created that. And these are all helpers. These are all the presence that we have around us that we have never been taught to connect to because it was uncomfortable with the conditioning that we've been exposed to all our existence. Once we start realizing that the creator's blueprint actually provides that perfect guiding architecture, and then the angelic energies that Michael is he's so tight into that because that's exactly what this is all about. We've got these tireless helpers. They don't take vacations. They don't take sick time. They're there with us. They're navigators. They know how to go from here to there. Oh my gosh. This is it. Absolutely. And you see how everybody's different take, everybody's different technique, everybody's different philosophy goes to one place.
Even that painting machine, Jesus was telling us, come through the heart. It's through the heart. It's through the heart.
It's it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's fantastic. And I'm going to have a musical interlude, and then we're going to hear from Mr. Michael Horn, who is an expert on Billy Meyer, who has the most amazing teachings and maybe channelings as well from Pleiadian people. And a quick hello, Michael, before I pass on to you.
Yes, okay. Hi, thank you.
So I'm going to play a song from Elaine Silver. We heard from her earlier. This is about a movement that's been going now for about 4 years, and she's going to talk about it after Michael talks his bit. And, well, let's hear the song.
Okay, this is called I Am Humanity. I just wrote it today, October 7th, 2025. I am humanity, I am humanity, we are humanity. I am humanity, we are humanity, it comes through our divinity. And again, I am humanity, I am humanity, we are humanity. I am humanity, we are humanity, it comes through our divinity. You and me and you, we each have a point of view. Yet there is only one of us. Let's take the time to review. I am humanity, I am humanity, we are humanity. I am humanity, we are humanity, it comes through our divinity. Living life as a human race with all of God's creation. As we're spinning through outer space, it's a viewing point of transformation. I am humanity, I am humanity, we are humanity. I am humanity, we are humanity, it comes through our divinity. I declare in this here and now that this is a sacred vow. The mind tells us what, the heart gives us why, and spirit shows us how. I am humanity, I am humanity, we are humanity. I am humanity, we are humanity, it comes through our divinity. Comes through our divinity, comes through our divinity.
How did you like that, Mary?
I loved it. I loved it. Absolutely. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And Patricia,
Wow.
you're friends with Elaine.
I am. In fact, we just saw her on Sunday. My husband and I drove down to where she was doing a concert, a beetleology concert. It was fantastic. So, yeah, she's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. I had just the most energizing 1 hour conversation with her when we recorded a few different things. I'm really looking forward to doing more with her. Yeah. So, Michael Horn, come on in. So, I guess you'd probably like me to ask a question unless you've got something pre-prepared, but I think right off the bat, let's dive into what did the Plearan say to Billy about the heart or living from the heart and heart-centered relationships?
As I recall, because this was spoken about a while back, and there are now 918 transcripts from these contacts that have been going on, and they are not all of his communications with the alleged Plearan extraterrestrials, which he claims began when he was 5 years old, and that was back in 1942. So he's had many, many more conversations. They are live, they are face-to-face. There's no channeling involved. And I'm going to paraphrase with the caveat that I may not be getting everything right. They didn't put the same kind of emphasis on what we call the heart in our, let's say more, what would you say, new age or alternative. It's very interesting. They said feelings are very important, but they are not more important than thoughts, than knowing what we are thinking and thinking deliberately, because according to this information in the teaching, thoughts precede feelings. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't feel things that come at us or something happens, but most of the time, when we are feeling something, while we may not be really aware that we are thinking all the time, and we may not be aware of all that we are thinking, those feelings are coming through as a result of thinking. So we are very often, most of the time, since we are thinking all the time, and we are not always aware that we are thinking or what we are thinking, thoughts are happening at you might say, an unconscious level very often. But that still can provoke, and often does, various feelings: sympathy, antipathy, warmth, distance. However, we are feeling and interpreting through the feeling center what these thoughts are. So while we use the term heart, I'm a songwriter. I've used something that happens in the heart of a champion. And I've written songs about heart. What most of us relate to this idea. So it was a little bit of a shock when I read this and they were explaining it, and it's explained more fully in the material. There is so much material that recalling all the details of the specifics, I wouldn't be able to, and I don't want to try to do justice to something that I might botch. But they said that we have to also understand that our feelings can't guide us through everything. We have to be balanced and be able to think critically, logically, to be in control of our thoughts, and to deliberate. So one of the problems we have, let's say in America, for instance, we have such polarization going on politically, right? But it isn't just political, because the emotional, reactive parts of the discourse, if you can say, of the environment, of the communications, is often very volatile. And that's because politics, partisan politics, is a distortion. It is one of the least effective ways of creating communication and love, peace, and freedom between human beings. If you are dedicated to politically partisan thinking, by definition, you are automatically more inclined to rule out anything that comes from the so-called other side. So in the teaching, it's highly emphasized that we must learn to develop what they call neutral positive thinking, not the kind of positive thinking where everything is wonderful all the time. We're just running around spouting positive thoughts, which of course there's nothing wrong with per se, but we've got to have a balance, right? So what they're saying here is, at first, we must see things as they really are. And this is one of the hardest parts for people in any field and any affiliation context. We have preferences, we have likes and dislikes, and this is understood and is acknowledged. But in order to move in an evolutionary way so that we are coming together and realizing that love, this is the knowledge of the certainty of the interconnectedness of everything and everybody, and not, just in a touchy-feely way, but that realization which brings about such depth when we perceive things and seek to see what they are calling the creation in all things and in all people. So if we continue to work to see things as they are, we will come into awareness of our prejudices, positive and negative. So the Swiss, and Meyer is a Swiss man, and the Swiss also have in their history, they formerly were embodying neutrality, which they have, unfortunately, as predicted back in the 40s in this material, they've really effectively given up neutrality and now are on a very bad path for themselves. Most countries don't even know from what is neutrality and why, who cares? The Swiss, for the longest time, kept out of, let's say, overt wars and things. They had other things going for them that protected them at times through their financial systems. This idea of when we are looking at anything, when we are listening to anything, to see it as it is and to become aware, consciously aware of the feelings, but also of the thoughts. These things that appear and disappear oftentimes quicker than we can become aware of them. So there's a thought, then there's this feeling that is often sometimes not even perceived accurately. It's underneath, and it is a consequence. And then another micro thought is birthed that gives rise to what we are deciding to do or not do with the feeling usually we're relating to. So you've opened up a place where there is a lot of information in the teaching, and at some point, perhaps if we end up discussing these things, and specifically, I'll get a hold of which book and where this is, because Billy is masterful with it. He writes the teaching, but he also says he's not the author of all of it. It is that which creation itself, that they don't speak about deities, the creation, we would call it spirit, the universe, whatever, that thing that we live in that has birthed and supports everything and has set everything in motion, which so miraculous. When you start to study this material, and you don't have to study Meyer's material to know and to sit and contemplate creation and go, oh my gosh, I became fascinated when raising my daughter alone years ago. I was a single dad. Dad, I'm bored. And I said, okay, go outside, get on the grass, bend over, stick your head down and watch the ants and see what that does for you. Oh, Dad. Well, she came to appreciate that. Over time, it became a joke for us, but it's no joke. Where I live now, we have ants. We're fortunate in America. We're living where there's trees and birds and bees still, and a variety of animals that show up to try and eat the cat food outside. So to not lose touch with and track of this nature, how nature is so amazing in biology. Billy said, you will see the creation in nature. That is what you're saying. You'll see it in people. So when we do this, we want to see things as they are, because they are more magnificent than our unconsciously held assumptions. Oh, another tree. Wait, I know you know what I'm saying here. And the way Billy can convey that, and the way he will take a thought and then go into it, and then from this angle and from that angle and all, and repeat it, because he knows repetition, that is, the mother of learning in many ways. And sometimes if there's a new contact report up on our blog, and unfortunately he's having to write about a lot of things that are not so pretty, the coming world dictatorship under a lunatic who is our president, and these things that were foretold as far back as the 1940s in this material, specifically about this man and these times. We have, and these are things that are underway now. We've already confirmed over 250 specific error-free examples of prophetically accurate scientific, environmental. He's the first person I could find who specifically warned about unnatural, man-made climate change, global warming, damage to the ozone, etc. And also the other areas where there's this volumes of prophetically accurate information, geopolitical, medical, economic. We published on what I call the new online COVID test, where there are now 44 examples. There are many more in the material, but I stopped to keep documenting other stuff. 44 specific error-free examples of information about COVID and the vaccines that he published years and decades before these events occurred, and that I was trying to send around as we would get the English translation. I tried to spread it in America when there were 57 cases total in our country and 5 in the state in which I live, which the state now has well over 35,000 deaths. So it was blocked. No media would touch it. It's right there. The Wuhan lab thing, November 2019, published it. But he also in 1995 warned about a respiratory disease coming out of an accident in a lab in Guangdong. That was the precursor to SARS. I can't help it. There's so much here. It just always takes me on this, but this is where the heart, feelings, thoughts was your question. What he teaches is not a belief system, and we have to study, question, dismiss it, accept it, find out if it proves to be true in our own experience, and if it enhances the quality of life. And then there's nothing to proselytize. If I'm invited to speak about something, we have the best, clearest UFO photos, films, and video ever taken, all pre-digital. He took originally between 12 and 1,400. And what was so amazing, apart from the clarity, and there's 1, there's 2, 3, 4 in a frame, and there's films. What was so amazing is that, and this is something that is formerly skeptical, National Intelligence Officer interrogated me for 3 months, and he said, this is why this is one of the reasons it's true. He came at me with guns blazing and then went on to write a definitive article for the blog endorsing the authenticity. And he asked questions. He said, how is it, if this is a hoax, that this one man with his one hand and his moped and his one camera can know when and where to go to take 10, 20, 30 or more photographs and a film or films of these UFOs? How does he know? What kind of a hoax could this be? And there's so much more to it. But it is, as we're trying to tell people now, more and more, UFOs are the least important part, as are the extraterrestrials. We have, unfortunately, and because of the way things have been manipulated in the world, we focus a lot on the evidence and theories about extraterrestrials and this object coming or that. None of us can do anything with these, in a sense, except if we want to know, well, what's the evidence, which I'm very big on? How do we know if it is authentic or not? Where's the analyses? Where is the authentic? And we have it all. So then we go to the next level, to me, was what I call the higher standard of proof, this prophetically accurate information that first compelled me to jump from the UFOs. I get the first material in 1979, a book, and then I'm reading everything I can get. Then in 86, I meet a guy accidentally in Sedona, Arizona. I come back to LA where he lives. He gives me 1,800 pages of the conversations from 75 to 78. Riveting. Very little about the UFO. They explain certain things and all. But what I've said since I put up my first DVD in 2004, the Meyer contact's the key to our future survival. And then you realize that there is a teaching here. It's not esoteric, doesn't require a panoply of beings. It's because we have to test through our thinking. And as we do this, and as we see why, and this is never discussed in ufology, if these contacts are real, what's the reason for them? It's not for us to chase lights in the sky, nor to theorize about beings that we will never meet and are not coming down here into this nutty place. They have made the best kind of contact. They've given us the best evidence of existence and the best teaching I can think of that can settle us down into a place of delving into things we don't even know about our bodies, about nutrition, all sorts of things you wouldn't even think, but they've put it forward. And then the most amazing information that causes us to have to wrestle a bit with it. And never is there any harm done, nor is it advocated. Peace, love, freedom, harmony, compassion, all of the things that you don't have to be an extraterrestrial to recognize are core values of humanness and humaneness. That's what I see the Meyer contact being about. And it's amazing. This man is harassed to this day. He's survived, as of this year, 28 attempts in his life, most of them in Switzerland, where he lives. They are harassed on an ongoing basis by the CIA-supported Swiss military. They fly in with helicopters with guys hanging there and dropping recording devices, drones coming in to try and attack. And you don't know, most people don't even know about this. It's the It's the only case that's got the evidence, really. I mean, it's not that there aren't plenty of sightings. He's explained since 1990 where a lot of these craft come from, and even before then, he explained where the UFO phenomenon was being observed in 2015 during the First World War and where they were coming. So we can get enough of the UFO stuff, but we have to move off from it. So when you say, what about the heart? Well, it's far better to take that tack of exploration and speak about thinking and feeling and how things are said to move and evolve. And if we do that, then we get to and talk to other people like mine. It's a peer process. There's nobody there is a monthly meeting, international, it's online, Zoom meeting. There are people who facilitate, questions or whatever, but there's nobody who sits there as an authority. There are people that know far more about many parts of this than I do. I've focused on certain things to try to get this in. I've taken on and defeated any skeptical challenge that they would pose. Now they won't even really try to do that. They simply suppress and ignore, as our government does. They requested photos from me a few years ago. I sent them to a committee that requested them, and they censored them because this is not to be known. If we knew that it isn't an evil alien threat. Now, it isn't to say that there aren't some negative folks out there, but, right? This is not about an evil alien threat. We can show no evidence. We can only show that this information, these people through their actions, Meyer through his, are here to offer us information, evidence if we want it, that we may, if we have the wit, take it up and start to work with it, because this is the little heavier part, for the next 200 years, what we are now seeing will be on steroids. And it's going to be very difficult. And we talk about very often a lot of the things that Billy publishes. I say to people, you look at this and you know it's for the survivors. We barely can think this clearly and know what to do with this. I didn't mean to go on too much. Michael knows that when we talk, it starts to open the floodgates, because there aren't that many opportunities, to be honest, any longer in the media. There's some people occasionally come forward and then they get maybe intimidated and they don't want to discuss this anymore. And it's too bad, because there are things now that are unstoppable, and that if we see things as they are, we want to figure out a way to come together and be healthily interdependent, not codependent. I think in your country, there's probably a lot more of that in the way. I got a chance, I think it was 2006, I got to come to Australia and do 4 presentations, and I loved it. I loved the place and the people. It was great. It was just a wonderful thing. You can come away with an overly positive view of things, but nothing bad about it. So what am I going to do? Complain? No. So it's very much about, what do we do now, and what works and what doesn't? And what are we precious about? What do we give up? What do we take on? What do we discover? What do we wrestle through? The environmental upheaval that Billy first foretold, starting in 46, I think, will be with us for the next 2,500 years. Unimaginable, unstoppable, ceaseless, all due to ignorant human behavior. Right? So hopefully we're planning to have some communication with folks.
First episode that we did of a 3-part webinar is now the most viewed video on Beyond Being Human. Yeah. And that's only over a few weeks. And
Great.
So it shows the interest level that's right there with that. And I wanted to introduce you to Anthony, the editor of Supernal Magazine. You two should get a room.
I was about to put my hand up and say, we need to talk, because what you've just explained has just absolutely blown my mind. And this is what Supernal Magazine is about, is helping people to understand that there's so much more out there. We can't know it all. I said that earlier. And as the editor and publisher, I don't know it all at that broad brush of information. So I think we definitely need to talk. And with the magazine, because we're online, we can actually link in those videos and start sharing them around as well. And we have the new Paranormal Pages section, which UFOs come under and all that sort of stuff as well. But more than that, I just love the fact that there's somebody out there that's written about all this stuff years ago that's got definitive sort of proof on things.
He's published over 45,000 pages, written over 60 books. I mean, this is the most amazing thing that is going on. Yeah, when I came to Australia, I remember there was a Nexus magazine or something.
Yes.
Nexus. They hosted it. There was like a tour. There were a few of us speakers, and we went around Queensland, North Coast, Gold Coast, Sydney. I think this. And it was a great fun because people were delightfully open and interested. I only wish it was that way in our country, but it isn't. And there's too much focus on phenomena, and we cannot do anything with phenomena. I'm sorry. It's just like, this is so real. If you want great UFO evidence, there's nothing better. In some cases, he's within 15 feet taking photographs of these craft, taking photographs from inside the craft. So any and everything that's on my blog, you are welcome to share it. Blanket offer. Now, some things may seem, well, that's a strange thing to be here. For instance, I did a 30-minute presentation at a national meeting, and I did it on the cosmic electromagnetic energy, the meridians in the body, acupuncture, and what the connection to the teaching is. Then there are people that are writing on political connection to the material where this has been foreseen, foretold, even going back to who were the real people involved in creating COVID. And they were not the people that people think they were now. There's so much. So
yeah,
we can definitely be in touch.
Thank you so much for coming along. I know you're busy moving people and whatever, but I'm going to play the promo for your Singly Authentic documentary.
Oh, yeah, it's a new film.
I'll play that, but thank you so much for coming. Yeah.
And thank you for doing that. And thank you all. Look forward to it and to develop a flow and some rapport and whatever. So I thank you again, Michael, and everybody.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
The common portrayal of extraterrestrials as little green men or little gray people is part of a disinformation campaign.
I was fascinated by the UFO evidence. It's incredible, unparalleled, authentic. There is nothing here to believe. We're looking for facts. This is about something even more important than UFOs. Your Billy Meyer case is 100% ironclad authentic. I will take on any skeptics on your behalf.
Billy Meyer was doubted for many years. What do you think about him? The pictures are so vivid, and the Pleiadian story so vivid.
Otherwise, we are told with certainty it comes in and strikes between the North Sea and the Black Sea. You want to read tomorrow's news? You read Billy's old prophecies and predictions.
In 1953, and this is verifiable, by the way. This is copyrighted, verifiable information of Billy Meyer specifically talking about going underneath, being transported in a beam ship, and going underneath the pyramids in a massive underground chamber.
We are told even at that time who set this in motion, the progenitors of this disease. Which I would only later come to be able to find that he had published information about the damage to the ozone and atomic energy, indeed, back in the 1950s.
According to Meyer, we might as well roll cigarettes with our paper money for those of us that are still smoking.
The agendas to control everything. The American people will be dispossessed. It's happening now. In 1987, Billy Meyer is warning about computer-based weapons. What does that mean? AI.
Well, I think it's an astonishing prediction by Billy Meyer.
If your country attacks Iran, there's an enormous likelihood that Russia and China, which are becoming closer all the time, will attack your country.
You can watch UFOs till the cows come home. They're up there watching. These people are really crazy. How did they know the future unless they have time travel? Folks, it's right here. We're not going to have time travel now, but this is the evidence for it that somebody does.
Yeah. So that video's up on our YouTube channel. It goes for over an hour and 15, where we give an introduction to the whole field. But the next 2 episodes will be going deep into the teachings. I can't wait. It's going to be great.
It's going to be it's just amazing. I mean, what's coming up for a lot of people is a scary thing, because again, here we go back to the conditioning, right? What would happen? You're looking at world leaders that are thinking, oh my God, this is going to force a shift in our collective worldview. What could happen? Well, humanity would start humbling down. And then humanity begins to dethrone, knowing that there is something better. There is something better. And then, of course, that call for planetary unity, which all of us have where? In our heart centers, right? We have that. And then we have our helpers, divine and elementals here on earth, that we are in the middle. We are the bridges. Is it our cry for help? Is this more of a cry for benevolence? We got to think about that. We got to think about, well, if we are the bridge and we're getting these visitors and we're going through what we're going through, and then we still have to ponder about the presence and energy and frequency and possibility of thought, and what we can do with thought, and what we can do when we open ourselves to the help of the divine, to the help of the elementals, of the earth, of everything that's around us. Why is it that the higher-ups are so afraid of? Because that's the only reason why, going far back, why all these teachings have changed to oppression, to feeling lowly about who we are. I mean, if you think about prayers, how many prayers start with, Lord, I know I'm not worthy? What are you telling divinity? That they created what? Something that's not worthy? No, the thought process has to change. That narrative that we've been fed, it's actually inside our DNA, because we can't shake it off. It's very hard for us to. And those that do fall in through the cracks, and they're just moved out of the way. And then it becomes a very small group of people that cannot compete with the energy of what is being collected. And that's where our cry of benevolence, it's being heard. We're being heard. We really are. We just have to change the way we think ethically, how we respond, and we need to start anchoring the true intent to choosing peace, to see the light in all beings. Once we change the programming in our consciousness, and what is our default? Unity, oneness. And that's what they're afraid of.
Yeah. As time is running on, and we've still got quite a lot to go. Thank you, Mary. That was really insightful. Yeah.
What you've done is you've really posed the question, and this is a question I've been posing for a long time. And a lot of questions I get asked are, well, I'm only one person, what can I do? And I really like to point out to people is, yes, there's a lot going on in the world. Yes, there's a lot happening. There's the elites, there's the control, there's the fear. Everything in most mainstream media, most governments is about creating fear, which then creates hatred and creates all these things. And what I say to people is, you might not think you can do anything. However, let's go back to loving yourself again, goes back to that heart-centered love of yourself, and that let that radiate out as best you can. So you can't fix the world, maybe, and I hate using the word even can't. We can. And most people don't get that, so I'd use language they understand. You can't fix the world, but you can fix you. And when you fix you, you start fixing the people around you. And if everybody starts fixing themselves, then that creates the consciousness, the global collective consciousness that awakens people's minds and their hearts, and that brings about the change. And so we might only be one small person in one small space, but even a drop of water into an ocean is a drop of consciousness into a greater collective. And so for those out there that might be watching this that are feeling disheartened by what's going on, and there are a lot of people out there really struggling with this, take heart in the fact that once you start loving yourself, a lot of that fear will go away and a lot of that anxiousness will go away, and you start building yourself up to be much stronger than you thought you could be. And that would be a really strong message I'd like to put out there, that you are love. And yes, we say I am, you are all that way.
And the saying for decades now, think globally, act locally.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can go as far as thinking, okay, so I'm on this part of the world and I just thought of something. And 2 days later, I'm hearing someone with that same philosophy that I thought of. They just came up with it. What does that tell you? That tells you that you're part of the oneness, and that energy, that frequency, that consciousness hit the one person that's actually going to do something. So imagine what we can do.
Absolutely.
We're not taught that. We're taught that we cannot.
That's correct.
And don't dare. That's the next word. Don't you dare play with those things. No, you do. You play it, because if your heart is pure, yes, do it.
Get it.
Wow.
So we have one of our guests, Michelle, who'd like to talk of an experience.
Hi there. Just listening to Mary and Anthony talking with Patricia, I just wanted to talk about my experience of living in heart-centered gratitude. It's a really powerful way to live. I've been working with Patricia probably since 2016, is initially when we first met. And then in 2020, after my mom passed, she happened to call right after that, asked me to be part of her Living in Heart-Centered Gratitude group and experiments, the 7-day experiment that she shared with you through email. And I've been doing that experiment every time she has had one since 2020. And I can tell you that my life has changed a lot. I think living in heart-centered gratitude can change the world. And here's an example that I came up with. as you all were speaking, I just recently had my home remodeled, and I've always had issues, I guess, with contractors. Because I think one way, they think another, and I have all this drama in my head about working with contractors and trying to get what I want and them doing the job, all that kind of stuff. So I thought, wow, I'll start doing the heart math tool of the heart lock-in technique and really get into gratitude. Not breathing through your heart and getting all your cells to actually feel that gratitude when you feel gratitude for your cat or whatever it was at that time. And I did that, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes before the contractors arrived. I had a door that really had a serious leak and no one didn't know how to fix it, kind of thing. I was getting a bit of a runaround. So I did the heart lock-in technique before the contractors came in. And when they came in, it was glorious. Everybody had, the residents of the group that I was emulating this gratitude towards, solutions came. Everybody wanted to fix it. Long story short, it finally got fixed. That really freaked me out because I was like, whoa, this stuff works. And why did I not learn it before? And I do this now when I know I'm going to be in a pickle and I'm not sure how I'm going to respond to something. I'll go into that heart lock-in technique and really you're being gratitude in your heart. You're radiating it out to everyone around you and further if possible. And it changes things. It changes the frequency of everyone around you and the way people respond and the way the situation heals or gets addressed or fixed or whatever. It works. It's so interesting to me. And I find that if you haven't done Patricia's experiment that she's having in October, I highly recommend it. The emails are amazing. She'll have a video with it or something with it that you can hang on to and use, throughout your personal life. It's very powerful. And it does change your life, how situations just work out. If you constantly have a situation that just gets kind of buggered up, try the heart center gratitude technique and see how it will change. It's amazing.
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. Yeah. You can go to divine2step.wordpress.com because it's got the Divine Two-Step, and we're working on a new website which is going to expand on this a bit more as well. Let's move
Awesome.
on.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah, thank you. So now I would like to introduce you to another person that I've only just met. She couldn't make it today. Her name's Gloria Haas, Hass. She has been blessed with being clairvoyant since childhood. Billy Myers talks about time travel. She has actually suddenly discovered that she is time traveling as well. But here's the video.
Thank you, Michael, for inviting me to be a part of this full moon event. And I'm really excited to talk about From the Heart and the Heart-Centered Life. Well, I'm Gloria Haas, and I'm a natural-born clairvoyant. I have exceptional skills that I've been practicing since I was a toddler and also as a 4-year-old, which is still a toddler. What led me to being right here, right now, working as a channeler and intuitive is that, to me, living a clairvoyant life was very normal. And my parents thought I was weird, even though my mom is clairvoyant. She didn't say anything about it until I was in my 20s. And it was always like, don't tell people about this, don't talk about it. And I had to be closed off. I wasn't living a true heart-centered life from my heart because it was discouraged by my parents and my brother. Actually, when I was 30, I started going into counseling, doing my best to start unraveling the trauma and everything else that came to me. And I noticed that even in my mid-20s, I could tell when the phone was going to ring, and it scared people, and I got beaten, physically abused. But when I started in my 30s, when I was 30, it was in my safe space. And then I was starting to learn how to live a heart-centered life, which I didn't know the words, what they were then. I was in therapy starting in my 20s, actually, but I got more serious in my 30s. And after an additional 33 years, I stopped therapy because I learned how to be true to my nature. And I wanted other people to learn how to be true to their nature. And that's why I do the channeling messages, because it helps bring out the true nature of the universe, the entities. I channel music frequencies, and these are the messages that I get, and I give them freely. And it would be a beautiful world, if everyone could live from their heart in a heart-centered life where we can all live in harmony with one another. Living from the heart has nothing to do with another person. Your heart-centered life is you living a life where you love yourself first. People add to our lives. They either add blessings or lessons. The lessons can lead us to a better heart-centered life if we let it, and then that is a blessing. So lessons, in my view and opinion, are blessings. And living from the heart has an abundance of love that comes from within each of us and overflows out into the world. Love is not external. Heart-centered means love is internal. Skip the waves of defeat. Skip across them, for they don't serve you. Tisi la shala. Octogenarians can teach you more than you know. They have great advice about living from the heart. They can show you what not living from the heart looks like. Don't be one of them. Open your heart and sing, for love is in the air. Unconditional love is waiting for you to embrace it. You won't find this from another human being, so stop looking for it in people. Shakatila. Unconditional love is quiet, calm, and peaceful. It comes knocking on all hearts and all beings. Shakatila. Shakatila. Raise yourself up to the love frequency. It is waiting for you. There's so much adventure in this frequency for you. All you have to do is believe you are worthy of receiving it. There is nothing that you have done or will ever have done that will turn unconditional love away. Shakita. Listen to the quiet strumming of an acoustic guitar and set your mind and heart adrift. Allow yourself to be loved unconditionally. This will change your life forever. Love doesn't hold tightness in your muscles. And that is what a heart-centered life feels like. Your muscles are relaxed, not all tense and scrunched up. Love allows you to breathe. And love is action. Like I said, it allows you to breathe. And heart-centered life is living in harmony with yourself. When you live in harmony with yourself, you will start to live in harmony with the universe. Takashita. When you live a heart-centered life and your heart is open, you will attract love. People will find you attractive but be selective on whose energy you allow into your life. Living a heart-centered life means respecting your core values, your boundaries, and the boundaries of others. Remember to breathe. If your intention to live a heart-centered life is powerful, then your results will be powerful because your actions are powerful. A heart-centered life is open for healing your heart. When you close off your heart to others, you are closing your heart off to living a heart-centered life. When you cannot just close your heart off to one thing without actually finding that it's closed off to other things. Even though you don't want it to be, that's the way it goes. Walls go up, and the higher they go, the harder it is to let others in and let unconditional love in. And always remember to breathe. There are times where we forget to breathe, and that's why I keep reminding you to breathe. When we get upset or anything or get excited, we end up holding our breath. So if we breathe, we can relax and let the energy flow. A heart-centered life is open for healing your heart. Can't say that enough. Breathe in love. Let it circulate through you and speak love. Takashita.
Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, she's quite an amazing woman. And I'm hoping at some point, maybe early next year, to do a full interview. Anthony, are you going to stick around or are you going to go?
I will be around for approximately the next 20 odd minutes.
I would very much like you to watch this one. It's the long talk from Elaine Silva. She's going to introduce us to I Am Humanity, the movement, which has an event coming up on the 18th of October in America and 19th in Australia.
Oh, here.
And here we go again.
In the song where it says, the mind tells us what it is and the heart tells us why, and there's a connection from the heart to the mind and the mind to the heart. And in fact, we're learning that the heart actually has its own brain. And so when you mix those two, it's hard for me to separate them, but to mix the two, and when there's a thought and the feeling that combine, it sends out a powerful message to the universe and things begin to happen. So the heart and the mind go together. Have a little empathy, have a little sympathy, feel into your heart. That's where our divinity reaches through infinity when we feel into the heart. Have a little empathy, have a little sympathy, feel into your heart. That's where our divinity reaches through infinity when we feel into the heart. Now is the time for the changes to be made, right from wherever we are. What we hold in mind comes about in kind when we feel into the sacred heart. Have a little empathy, have a little sympathy, feel into your heart. That's where our divinity reaches through infinity when we feel into the heart. The heart knows the way, it's the truth and the light. It's our guiding star deep within. The mind tells us what, the heart gives us why. No better time than now to begin to have a little empathy, have a little sympathy, feel into your heart. That's where our divinity reaches through infinity, when we feel into the heart. When we feel into the heart. When we feel into the sacred heart. Hi, my name is Elaine Silver, also known as Fairy Elaine Silver and Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver. And you can call me Elaine, you can call me Fairy, you can call me Fairy Elaine, you can call me Reverend Fairy. Sometimes I tell people they can call me Your Majesty, but it's just a joke. And so I'm here to talk about Humanity Day. But before that, I wanted to give you a little bit of information. I live in Sarasota, Florida, in the States. I'm originally from New Jersey, and I've always been interested in music, and I have been a full-time traveling, recording artist since 1979. So it's been a really long time, and I still love it. And I was a classical voice major in college, and I was a jazz vocal performance major in college. And then I never finished because I started getting too many gigs. And so here I am. And I moved to Sarasota in 2000. And at that point, I had been coming to Florida in the wintertime. Each winter, it seemed to get longer and longer. Then I finally bought a house down here and moved to it in 2000. And I had a lot of connections with different, like Unity and Science of Mind and even Unitarian churches and progressive centers. And so my career that I had in New Jersey, I worked with a lot of children. I was known as the folk music queen in the 80s and 90s. When I got down here, they didn't really know who I was, but I had connections in the churches. So my career has evolved into a musical ministry, and I just love it so much. I get to fill in for ministers 3 or 4 times a month typically, and I love creating programs. My newest one is called I Am Worthy. I have one called Spiritual Economics through song. I have lots of them, many. And so I found the people from IamHumanity.net through some of my friends who are and were involved in landmark education. And I had done that work back in the mid-70s, and was really, really wonderful for me to understand things at a very young age, like we create our own reality. I was given the distinction between wants and needs, and also the idea that life is a mirror and what we see is a reflection of what's in here. And I really took that to heart. And then in the early 90s, right when the fairies came into my life, by the way, is when I found the Science of Mind, New Thought Philosophy. And I've been studying that since the early 90s. And it took me 10 years to complete Science of Mind practitioner program, but I never got my license then because it didn't matter to me. I just love the material so much, and I use it in my songwriting and my programs. But then we moved over to West Palm Beach for about 4 years for my husband's job, and he retired in 2018 as an engineer working with NASA, working on the rockets. And it was really a divine appointment because when I got over there, I found a center and I started taking classes in the Science of Mind. And I actually got my license after like 25 years in the program, in the teaching. It's really a wonderful credential. That's my credential. I have ordinations and ministries and this and that, but the science of mind that's where it comes from. Everything needs to fit into that context, or else I don't go there. I am a divinity priestess through the Temple of Isis in California, and I have a couple other ministries so I could marry people before I became a science of mind licensed practitioner. And so that brings us to now and back to Sarasota. We moved back in 2018. There was a new center that started here, and it's called Center for Spiritual Living Cultural Coast. It's my community. I love us. We have the best community. And so I found out about Humanity Day through Jane Graham Boucher, and she introduced me to the IamHumanity.net group. So I'm going to tell you about Humanity Day. It happens on the third Saturday of October, and this will be its fourth year. And the date this year is Saturday, October 18th, 2025. It is a 6-hour global virtual event, and it's designed to uplift and connect us as humanity. And most importantly, bringing attention to this most wonderful conversation that we are humanity. I am humanity. We are humanity. This empowers the upliftment of humanity, and it will continue to do so for generations to come and come and come. So at the 6-hour virtual event, people can watch it all over the world. And there will be live celebrations as well. We're having a watch party in Sarasota, and people are encouraged to come and stay for the entire event or pop in for as long as they would like. And like Earth Day, that began as an idea back in 1970 on April 22nd, I remember that day. The word got out, and the Environmental Protection Agency in the States was formed just 8 months later in December of 1970. And so that's what we're seeing for Humanity Day, for this to become like Earth Day. So when a critical number of people are in alignment, things get accomplished. Kind of like the 100th monkey syndrome, if you know what that is. If you don't, look it up. And just as we are all part of the Earth, each person on the planet is part of humanity. And if we're talking universally, in truth, there is only one of us, expressing as individualizing extensions of source energy. The hours on Saturday, October 18th, where there's going to be 2 viewings, and it's from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific U.S. time, and from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. There are 6 unique sessions with inspiring speakers and keynotes from leaders and change makers. I like that, change makers. There will be art, music, poetry, dance, and more. And as there will be stories that move us and experiences of resilience, hope, and innovation. So I'll tell you what the 6 sessions are. First session, we are humanity flourishing in the dance of life. 2, global participation, dancing around the globe together. 3, Earth, our flourishing home. 4, a call to action, walk, run, or fly. 5, renewing spirit, the freedom to dance. And 6, dreams we dare to dream, the bigger game. And to register for Humanity Day, go to www.IamHumanity.net. There's lots of information on the website too. So we look forward to spreading the news of I Am Humanity and We Are Humanity, and co-creating this Humanity Day on the 3rd Saturday of October. And so I'm very grateful to Michael for allowing me to come on and share about Humanity Day and about myself. Maybe we'll meet someday. You can look me up on elainesilver.com. And I thank you. I bless you. Namaste.
Wow. Such beautiful people.
like I said, I'm just so grateful. And like, I can't help but feel like the angels are just sort of putting these people, they just flow in, and it's really been such an incredible adventure the last few years, and it's growing, of course. And speaking of growing, I'd love it if people would go to youtube.com at Beyond Being Human and like and subscribe. Now's the time for it to blossom. Let's say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now we've got someone, very special person joining us fairly soon, hopefully. But I will play one other short video from a guy called Kiara Windrider, another person who I've only just met. We had a good over an hour, I think it was a couple of hours discussion. Absolutely fascinating guy, Indian. He's in Egypt at the moment doing a guided tour kind of thing. And we'll be hearing more from him down the road as well. I'm going to do an interview. Let me play the video. It's only a few minutes.
So one thing I would say about the heart is such an unprecise term. So if you talk about embodied living or soul-centered living, or being fully present with ourselves, with each other, what it also means for me is the resonance between the different aspects of our being. So there's different bodies. There's the physical, etheric, emotional, mental, soul bodies. And if they're in resonance with each other, it's an automatic. We live from the heart. We live from presence. We live from the soul. We are the soul experiencing itself in human incarnation, in right relationship with each other, in right relationship with the divine within, in community, the evolutionary process that we're going through as a planetary consciousness. I think a lot of it begins with that soul embodiment, that willingness and that ability to anchor that frequency of the soul through the entire body. The heart is simply one unit of consciousness. And most people identify that with the emotional center. But it's far more than that. You know, the emotional center is not the identity of our being. It's the soul is the primary identity. It uses emotions, uses the mind, uses physical energy bodies. So it's like unifying all of that together in a way that we can be fully present. And that's a difficult one for many of us. How do we become present? Because most of us are controlled by subconscious impulses, we're controlled by our traumas, our programming, our conditioning. And to release that, to wake up from our slumber, from our trance, to be fully present to ourselves, to that within us which moves us into this evolutionary perfection that humanity is moving towards. So this is an amazing time to be in. And I know the full moon that we're experiencing right now, so we went through the lunar eclipse 2 weeks ago. We went through the solar eclipse yesterday. And these are all very significant astrologically. Uranus entering into Gemini, conjuncting Sadna, sextiling Neptune, conjuncting Saturn, moving into Aries. And then we have Pluto moving into Aquarius, all at the very early degrees, right at the cusp. And what this means is that this is the beginning of a whole new dispensation, what you could call a new age. The end of the Kali Yuga, the beginning of the golden age of light. And it's not something that just happens externally to us. It's something that we create within as embodied soul, individually, collectively, and as a planetary consciousness. So this is a very powerful time. This particular equinox, solar eclipse, combining together, Saturn's opposing. There's a lot of astrological significance, and then there's also new cosmic energies coming in from the sun, from the galaxy. So we are part of a much bigger process than simply our own individual journeys. So I think part of it is understanding, aligning, participating in this arena, joining with each other, creating networks and communities, understanding the bigger picture, what's going on, so we can fully participate without being left behind. I know that this is a time for many people that we've been awaiting for eons. Indigenous people have spoken about this, prophets and mystics have spoken about this, geologists and astrophysicists have spoken about this as a time of immense transformation. What that looks like is up to us. We create it, we participate in it. We are that divinity that we call God working through us in a way that we get to choose what this next evolution looks like. And there's many modern prophets and mystics that have spoken about the new species that's emerging. Humanity is an unfinished species. We're not complete. Now we think we're at the top of this ladder of creation. We're not. We're just beginning to understand what that means to be human. So to be a divine human, to be divinity embodied, that's to me what living from the heart is about. Even interestingly, the word heart, it's about earth, isn't there? Art. It's like a creation that we're engaging in. There's also the ability to hear. Are we listening to what really wants to be expressed? And it's not coming from a place of conditioning and programming. It's coming from a deeper source than all that. So to be able to listen deeply, to engage fully, participate powerfully, that's all part of this process. And this particular time of the lunar solar eclipse, the harmonics of the equinox, and the astrological significance of this next 2-3 years is very profound.
Amazing.
Yeah. And he's written a whole lot of books too.
Wasn't this full moon a kind of heart-centered, focused energy, right? That's what I felt. That's what I've heard everywhere. And it's just perfect for what it is that we are learning here today. What we're seeing here is that core theme or group of themes of intention, integration, positive impact, and the actual human experience. And we're talking about it. This is going into the timeline. I know you're recording it in Zoom, but this is actually being etched into a recording in this timeline. How wonderful is that there's going to be an accounting of what is happening today.
Yeah, it's an interesting development where actually a lady that I, again, fairly recently met, Neve Murray, who runs Environmentality, sort of ecology-based program and education. And she suggested through other presenters from the last event that, you should do something about living from the heart. And it immediately jumped out at me as a yes. But then I found out, like you said, that people were referring to this moon as, a heart-centered kind of thing. But it's also known as the hunter's moon.
The hunter's moon. But what are they hunting?
Yeah.
When you put it together, what are we hunting?
I just want to bring up a point, if I could, with the last interview, and he's talking about the frequency of the heart. When we look at numerology, or one form of numerology, heart actually comes to 25 which comes back to 7. 7 is pretty much everything that we exist within and without, depending on how you want to look at it. So you talk about the frequency. 25 is another number that's used a lot in things like past life, irrelevance, religious orders, things like that, which puts maybe a negative connotation. But if you bring it back to the 7, it puts a positive spin into all of it. And so this period of time with this full moon going through, the understanding really sort of hits home that in one form of, say, tarot that I use, 7 is you've made your bed, you've got to lie in it, you've got to wait, you've got to let things come to you, you've got to let it happen. And so if we tie in the 7 from the heart, now's the time to be sitting back, patiently letting things move towards those conclusions while you open up. So there's so many different sort of ways to look at things. And then, of course, with our previous video, she talked about blessing. What I like to look at, and Shirley actually, Shirley that works for us in the magazine, she's always said life is a blessing. Yes. There's always lessons, so let's put them together, and everything is a blessing for us. Okay. And it's just it's been something that when Shirley's sort of been a mentor to me for quite a number of years. So yeah, so I always think of that now. I don't think of it as a lesson to be learnt or to be had or to push on or whatever. It's a blessing. It's a period in our life that requires us to make our bed, lie in it, understand it, move forward. So just throwing that in there because there are 2 points in those last 2 interviews.
Yeah. I mean, what I took out of it is the actual intention of the heart-centered reality, which in this full moon, I want to say, what would a hunter do? Well, they catch and they release, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, we're learning, we're receiving, right? From this full moon and all the energies and everything we're stamping that we're teaching in this reality, in our timeline. But we have that release and align kind of energy in this moon. So this is the spiritual work of the full moon, where it centers the release, letting go of what no longer serves your heart, and then aligning with heart-aligned truths. We're talking truths here. We're discovering truths. We're realizing that this veil people talk about, there isn't any, right? It's right there in front of us. We just have to be in that frequency to be able to see it. So what is it that this heart-centered allows us to do? Self-abandonment. Yes, we can release these old patterns of ignoring our own needs, our gut feelings, the exhaustion that we commonly feel. We get to that emotional armor that we really, really believe that we have a tough hide. No. And then that inauthentic peace, we're releasing that in this full moon. If you're living in a heart-centered reality, what is it that we are now stamping into this reality in the timeline? On my own first priority. This is where self-love becomes that foundation that goes into that oneness, right? My authenticity is safe. That means that my vulnerability is a strength. It's not what I've been led to believe. And then my worth is non-negotiable. That's a clear boundary. My worth is non-negotiable. This full moon, this heart-centered development, this movement, this conversation we're having, this is amazing.
Absolutely. I keep going back to what you were talking. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And the hunter that killed the deer to get the heart, to take it back, to set them free. And that whole cycle of self-worth, value, understanding, letting go of jealousy, letting go of all the things that are created. Look in the mirror, see who you are, the truth of who you are, not what you want to be. So it does play in well with this full moon. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my birthday's on the 25th, and 25 I use in all sorts of different ways as a reference point. So that's really interesting. I didn't actually know that. So Freya did manage to come, and I haven't seen you for so long. Hello.
Hi. Great to see everyone.
Yeah, good to see you. So we're talking about living a heart-centered life. I'm sure you've got lots to say about it.
As I've only just heard the last little bit, I would just like to say I concur, and certainly I can relate to experiences in my personal daily life which have most definitely the cosmos, I'm going to say, has put. I've drawn a hard boundary in myself, not a hard boundary, like not ruthless or anything, but in a way, yes, ruthlessly self-loving, but from a heart-centered way, in a gentle way. And in that occurring in me in the months leading up to this time, I've definitely seen enormous changes in how that realization, that setting of that internal boundary has caused the world around me to respond differently and me to respond differently to the world around me. And it's interesting, like I will literally physically be stopped from doing things or attending things, etc., until I have taken care of all of my personal needs, the needs of the inner child, physical world, everything. So it's really a very, very interesting time to be alive, isn't it?
It sure is. And we should introduce you. Freya is co-editor?
Once upon a time, I was a deputy editor.
Of Supernal magazine, yeah.
Now I just work as a journalist I don't just do journalism. I chat with Anthony about bigger picture things for the magazine and I work with people internationally, do my own work aside from Supernal magazine, but I write a beautiful column, Sacred Sites, The Alchemy, every month, and I love it. And then I am lucky enough to write features and things like that as well. So that's lots of fun.
And we get to argue a lot.
Not that. I don't think we argue very much.
No, we had lots of very great,
really,
conscious, expanding conversations, and that's possibly one of Supernal strengths, which we've mentioned earlier, is about getting to question things. Freya is very good at getting me to open my consciousness to expand. And I mean, when I started Supernal magazine back in late 2018, it was all due to a near-death experience, and I thought I knew a little bit, and what I thought I knew and what I knew were actually vastly different. And Freya's been responsible for really opening up my consciousness and the consciousness of what Supernal's been about. And it's been a real journey for us, hasn't it, Freya, over the years?
It has. Yeah, Anthony and I are good at having robust conversations, and that consciousness opening thing in me, my spiritual name is Savitri, and Savitri is the Godhead. That was a big deal when that was gifted to me, and I really have sort of looked at that. It's enlightenment through the mind, and so that means questioning. Quest ion. Ask a quest ion and you're going to get the answer, because that's how creation works. So be careful the questions you ask.
And be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. If you ask the wrong question, just say, I'm rubbing that out with a little whiteboard eraser in my mind and out of the ethers.
Oh yeah, quickly, very quickly.
I loved how you described everything, Maria. I really enjoyed hearing that. I was so accurate and brilliant. Love it.
Thank you. I just published my third book, which is The Holistic Esthetician Beyond the Surface, which happens to be I'm going to get a lot of slack for that, because I'm just calling people out that say that they're doing holistic and spiritual work and they're not. Just hitting a ting shot does not mean you are doing any upper chakra work. I work with upper chakras, so it's very important for me to have that coherence between the heart, the rest of the chakras, and the upper chakras. But you touched on something that's going to be part of my next book, that boundary, that conditioning that we have been given, where we actually feel guilt about getting something done. I want to change self-care, that term, into self-respect, because self-care comes with conditions. Yes, I'm going to go get a facial. I'm going to get my chakras worked, but I have to do the dishes. I have to take care of the kids. I have no boundaries. I'm not setting boundaries. So self-care was created for us to believe that, oh, now you have your time. But we don't do that because we are super women. We have to do everything else. So when it comes to that boundary where we say, I'm going to go and get me taken care of, we don't do it because we have guilt. And I've seen that in my spa. So I'm so glad that you touched on that, because that's a big issue that we see when it comes to self-care, because it's not self-care. Self-care comes with conditions, self-respect.
I'd just like to echo that. Look, I'm going through a situation now with someone who I love very much, who is not well at all. And it's taken me over a year to be able to get through to their consciousness that self-love and self-care is not doing the dishes, doing the cleaning, doing the everything in the house first. It's that last, and everything you need first. And if everything falls apart around you in the rest, then literally that's what has to happen to preserve life, literally to preserve life. Because if you don't meet the needs of the emotional body, then forget it. Just forget it. You know, you won't be on the planet too long. Namaste to everyone. I'm sorry if that sounds very straightforward, but I'm just saying it as it is. And sometimes we get so hooked into an identity that this is how I am, this is my life, everything has to work like this, and we're putting the self needs last. That if we get to a certain point, we create dis-ease because there's no self-respect. And then trying to stop doing all of things that way and turn it around when you're not well is the hardest time.
That's it.
So don't wait till then, whoever's listening to this and needs to hear this. Do it now.
Yes. Do it now. Exactly. That's it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of now, I think now is probably the time to wrap up. We've been over 3 hours. My intention was to make it about 2 hours, and we've just been expansive, which is great. And it's been a wonderful show. Thank you so much for being part of it. And more to come, much more to come. And I did want to share one other last little thing here. If you're not aware of it, on beyondbeinghuman.org/shows, this is the listing of the various things that we've got happening. Many of them are from last year or earlier than that. This one here is one that I'm working on with my own interviews on Patreon, and there's going to be a lot happening over the next few months with that. These ones are ongoing, and we're going to be talking with mystics and people who are involved in mystics in various different kinds of ways, as well as I mentioned before, the Beyond Christmas show. Anyway, look, thank you so much, Mary. You're a fantastic co-host and
thank
host. And let's do more. And thank you, Patricia, for your amazing work and life and gift to humanity. And thanks, Michelle. And thanks for Freya turning up. And thanks, Anthony, for all that you do. And everyone else who's appeared today.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for everything.
Everyone else.
So, it feels hard to actually go, and
I know. I'm looking, my mouth is on stop recording, and I'm like, do we want to? Do we want to?
Well, goodbye, folks. Thank you, and let's stop recording.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Stop it now.
Bye-bye. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.